யாதம் உரே யாவரும் கேடீர்.
செம்மொழி வலையொலி யூடியூப் சேனல். இந்த சேனலின் மூலமாக, அந்த வலையொலியின் மூலமாக பல்வேறு தகவல்களை தினந்தோறும் நாங்கள் வழங்கி கொண்டிருக்கக்கூடிய அந்த நிலையில் முழுமையாக கண்டு பார்க்கலாம்.
It is Avvaiyar, having 33 poems to her credit in Purananuru alone, hailed as that wonderful woman by G.U. Pope, who seems to have enjoyed an extraordinary social standing. There is a unique piece, Puram 367, said to have been addressed to the big three of her time: Seraman Mavanko, Pandian காணப்பேர் தந்த உக்கிரப் பெருவெழுதி and சோழன் ராசசூயம் வேட்ட பெருநர் கிள்ளி. When they were all gathered together, they are rather brusquely told that since they are not going to be kings forever, they should live life as it ought to be lived, and more importantly, be generous. In another poem, Avvaiyar observes how a chieftain is extremely discriminating in his treatment of poets and his enemy kings. The king is sweet to poets, just as an elephant settling into the water to clean his white tusks at a bathing site is to the little children whom it allows to play with it, whereas he is bitter to his enemies, just as that elephant becomes dangerous to touch when it runs amok. Here is the poem. The tusker lies down in the water ghat as the children of the town wash its white tusks. You are that sweet, O great Lord, to us, but it can't be neared when it runs amok. You are that harmful, O great Lord, to foes. The story goes that Adiyaman Nedumananji sent Avvaiyar as an envoy to Thondaiman, and there is a poem packed with irony which she is reported to have sung when Thondaiman proudly displayed his armory to her. This is what Avvaiyar tells Thondaiman Ilandirayan. These are placed in the guarded, spacious king's palace, adorned with peacock feathers, weathered, their thick strong stems beautified, anointed with melted butter. Those are ever lying in the blacksmith's small hut, as their tips and joints are broken, piercing the foes, the sharp-tipped lances of my worthy king. Leader of the poor kin, who when there is much will give food, when there is little will share his own. Her remarks are bitterly sarcastic, and she makes bold to hint at the fact that Adiyaman's weapons are overused in frequent battles, whereas Thondaiman's, rarely required, can be publicly exhibited. Even when her dearest patron, Nedumananji, whose praises she has sung in many pieces, delays granting her gifts, Avvaiyar doesn't mind reprimanding him. She says, "Man standing guard over the palace, man standing guard over the palace, you do not close the gate to the bards who lead the life of pleading for gifts with a sense of dignity, and who sow the seeds of wise words in the ears of the generous, and have the strength of heart to achieve what they desire. Does not the king with the swift horses Nedumananji know himself? Does he not know me? This world is not poor enough to let the wise and the famed die. Enough to let, so we collect our ornaments and pack up our equipment. As the hand-skilled children of a carpenter who cuts trees go to the forest with an axe, we go into the world, and where we go, there we will have rice. It is Perinjithranar who stands on his dignity and asserts his rights on more than one occasion. He gives a gruesome account of his poverty-stricken life when he pleads with Kumanan to alleviate the suffering of his kith and kin, but doesn't hesitate to add, "But I won't receive a killer tusker with big rising tusks given reluctantly. I will accept, given sweetly and swiftly, a thing small as kundri." Kumanan, with a sharp spear of revered prince, born in a family famed and blameless, I, who sang your glory, request you to bless me with that pleasure. When a chieftain called Veliman doesn't treat him properly, the poet teaches him a lesson by asking him to take the elephant given to him by Kumanan. He says, "You are not the only one that supports bards. Bards are not in want of patrons. Realize now these are bards. Realize now there are also those that support bards. The huge tusker, handsome, tied to your land's guarded tree, which is hurt by it, is my gift. Prince of a swift horse, I am gone." Perinjithranar was not prepared to accept the gift given by Adiyaman Neduman Anji without seeing him. He says, "Leaving behind many hills and mountains, I came to return with the presents. Taking pity on me, he told his men, 'Let him accept this and leave.' But how did this ruler, hard to stop by enemies, know me? I am not a bard on business to accept this without his seeing me." A couple of Kabilar's elegies work through concrete details about two different situations in order to generate a powerful emotion in the reader's mind. When Pari was alive, his young daughters, standing on a hillock, used to count the horses of the enemy kings. Now, after his death, the poverty-stricken pair, standing on a heap of rubbish, count the salt wagons. Merely by describing two events, the poet is able to bring out the marked contrast between the state of Parambu before and after Pari's death, and between the condition of Pari's daughters before and after their father's death, and to express his profound sorrow at the tragic death of his patron and friend. A single line, "I feel pain and how I wish that my life were over," occurring between the two detailed accounts, striking and realistic, reveals that the poet is inconsolably grieved. Kabilar, known for his scholarship and densely textured poems, employs diverse strategies to mourn the death of his patron and friend Pari. In a few poems, it is the state of Parambu before and after the chieftain's death which is the focus of attention. This is one such poem. "Once there was friendship in you and a profusion of wealth to be used for giving rice when asked, and fried and stewed meat, cooked and never ending, while jars of liquor were opened and male goats were slaughtered. But now, since Pari is gone, I am bewildered and there is nothing I can do. My eyes stream with tears and I bow down to you and salute you, far famed Parambu, and I go. And as I go, I wonder what men will have the right to touch the black, fragrant hair of the girls who wear long rows of engraved bangles. Parambu, under the care of Pari, was a land of prosperity, far famed for its wealth. As he is now taking leave of it, with tears in his eyes, he is worried about its present condition and its future. He is thoroughly shaken and wonders if there are men who will have the courage to marry the orphaned daughters of Pari. The disastrous consequences of Pari's death include the fate of his country and the future of his daughters. It is to be noted that the poet's grief is genuine and that his love for Pari is selfless. Though Pari patronized the poet when he was alive, Kabilar, because of his celebrated career as a poet, can easily seek refuge elsewhere and fend for himself. It is the future of Pari's land which is of serious concern to him, as he is determined to take care of the ill-starred ladies with all his might and main. The very context that Kabilar chooses for another elegy is remarkable. He sings the song as he stands looking at Parambu from where he is taking Pari's daughters away. He says, "It rises up for those standing here, and if you walk a little away and stand there, oh how sadly it rises, where once the courtyards flowed with the fermenting sap from masses of sugarcane fiber, pressed out as if they were balls chewed by elephants. The hill of the Lord, who used to freely give away chariots." The prosperity of Pari's hill is suggested in the description of the courtyard flowing with the sap from masses of sugarcane fiber looking like balls chewed by elephants. Nothing can be more moving than the opening statement that the hill can be seen from where he stands and also from a slightly longer distance. It is the erstwhile wealth and splendor of the hill that haunts the grief-stricken poet, who finds numerous ways to sing its past glory. There was a time when on one side of the hill the sound of a waterfall could be heard, and on the other clear, sweet toddy filling the bowls of bards flowed carrying alone stones. This is the land where once, even if the black planet turned the color of smoke, or a comet appeared, or the silver planet passed across the sky of the south, the fields would be full of grain. The bushes would blossom with flowers, wild cows would be grazing on good grass, and jasmine with its green leaves would bloom like the sharp teeth of a kitten. If he was a generous lord who resembled a single tree on a long, shadowless road, his hill was a place where, when the monsoon rains poured down and the thyrl flowers bloomed like ornament paint on the faces of elephants, there was curry with tamarind, sweet buttermilk, termites from their red mounds, and a wealth of soft millet. The most moving of Kabilar's elegies is the one which he is supposed to have sung while starving himself to death in the rite of Vadakiruttal. Master of a mountain where a huge fruit chewed at by monkeys so that it looks like a torn up drum is food for many days, to the hillman Kuravar armed with bows. Most generous Pari, no matter how closely we cared for each other, you did not let it win you over. Surely you must have been angry with me when you did not let me come with you. You denied our rich friendship, the many years you watched over me. You told me I had to stay here. Because you behaved in that way, I could not be as near you as my love for you could reach. May I be with you? May I see you without a moment apart in the next life, just as in this life. May this be granted to me through some great destiny. The poet would have died with Pari, but he was asked to stay on to take care of the latter's daughters. Now that he has discharged his duty, he would like to join his friend wherever he may be. His prayer, therefore, to the powers that be is that he may be permitted to be with the great chieftain in the next life too. There is a unique cycle of songs mourning the death of the great king Koperinjolan, who facing north starved himself to death, again in the right of Vadakiruttal, since he is opposed by his own sons. We don't know if it is legendary or historical, though we have every reason to believe that there must be a historical basis for it. At least 2 or 3 of these elegies are successful in sincerely expressing the poet's profound sadness and in universalizing it without resorting to vocal pyrotechnics. In an elegy, Pottiyar expresses his wonder and grief on seeing Pisirandayar, who has come to be with his bosom friend, the Chola king, starving himself to death. Consider what a miracle is this courage that he has to sit here starving, a man of so many magnificent qualities, and even more miraculous that a high noble man of splendor who loves him and lives in another land, a man mighty in renown, with friendship his walking stick, should come to him here at such a time. The majesty of the king who said that his friend would come, and the insight of the man who has come so that he may remain a friend without fault, lead one to wonder and wonder again, and then pass beyond wondering. When it has lost a king of such a long-standing glory, who owned the heart of a noble man, living in a land where the king's rod of office did not reach, what then will become of this world? It will be a place, I know, to be pitied. In a short poem of 13 lines, Pottiyar manages to include the portraits of a king and a poet, and to marvel at the unique friendship of the two, who living in far-off places had developed a kind of spiritual love for each other and could be absolutely certain about each other's response to a crucial happening. Even when there is no possibility of getting anything in return, and when one has to cover a long distance in old age, Pisirandayar's arrival with friendship as walking stick should lead one to wonder. At the end of the poem, the disappearance of a magnanimous ruler is seen as the loss of the entire kingdom. Another poet friend of the king, who also facing north starved himself to death, Poodanadanar, arrived at the place a little too late and was shocked to know that the king had already breathed his last. But he makes a moving piece of 4 lines out of this tragic event. Warrior, you who are wasting away all the flesh on your body under the speckled shade on this island in the river. Are you angry with me? For those summoned by you who have sat down beside you are many. Though too short for an elegy, this poem makes a poignant appeal by leaving so much unsaid and asking the dead king an apparently innocent question. One more poem by Pattiyar, supposed to have been sung by him on seeing Urayur, the Chola capital, uses a striking image to generate the required emotion. He says, the way a keeper who has lost his elephant after feeding it sumptuous food and after caring for it many years may weep with grief when he looks at the empty post in the mournful stall where once the elephant lived. Didn't I shed tears when I looked out on the empty public square of the ancient city where Killi, who has lived and died, he who wore a golden garland and whose fame was great and who used to give away gifts of chariots. The poet's grief is compared to the grief of a mahout who has lost his lifelong companion, and the empty public square of the ancient city ruled by the king reminds him of the empty post to which the elephant had been tied for a long time. In yet another poem, Pattiyar shares his grief with the other poets who have enjoyed the patronage of the king. He says, he was widely renowned for giving gifts to singers. He showered his great kindness in generosity to dancers. He used his rod of power only with deliberate forethought, praised by the righteous. His firm friendship was praised by the discerning. He was gentle with women, powerful with the powerful. He sheltered the high masters of the faultless Vedas. But death did not stop to think what he was, did not value that worthy man at all, but seized on his sweet life. Embrace your grieving families and come forward, poets whose words are honest, and let us berate death. Let us say, as mourning swings through the wide world, the man who sheltered us, who took on undying glory, now has become a deep-rooted stone. This is supposed to have been sung on the occasion when the poet sees the memorial stone of the king who had died after facing north and starving himself. Here is a portrait delineating the multifarious aspects of the king's personality. Pattiyar invites the poets to assemble together with their families and to chide the god of death for having foolishly taken away the life of a worthy being. It is certain that the context chosen in all these elegies are real. Of the three laments by Avvayar on the death of Adiyaman, each strikes a new path for the poets to follow when they want to express their grief. The first one contends, let his body, if it so desires, advance to the shining cremation fire, or if it does not wish to near the fire, let it rise on its own to touch the sky. But whatever may happen to the body, his fame will never die, because he was like the glowing sun with the cool red moon of his umbrella. The second one says, let there be no morning, no evening anymore. Let the days of my life have no meaning. Will the hero whose memorial stone is adorned by the feathers of peacock accept the small cup of toddy poured upon it, the one who did not accept a whole country of high mountains? The third poem asserts, where is my father now, who was our firm support? Now that he is gone, there will be no more singers, there will be no more patrons. Like the giant Paganrai flower that is never owned by anyone, many lives pass away without having been useful to anyone in any way. One of the best elegies in Purananuru has been written by a lesser known poet on a lesser known patron. Kiratanar sings Chatan of Vallayur. This is the poem. Satan, who defeated great warriors with his powerful spear, is no more. Young men, therefore, will not don flowers, women will not pluck them, bards will not bend the flower-bearing branch with the tip of their yawl. Viralis will not wear them. Why do you, jasmine, still blossom in his land of Vallayur? Even a casual reading of these elegies in Purananuru will show that though short, they are animated with the very human feeling of grief and succeed in giving sincere expression to the poignant emotion of the poet, who manages to universalize it by removing all the accidental crudities of the personal experience. All these poems lend themselves to profound new historicist studies. Thank you.